A question I get asked a lot is what camera mount do I use on my helmets? Now, over the years, I've tried a lot, but I may have just found the best one yet. The first challenge for getting good POV footage is obviously how you mount the camera, and there are a lot of options out there. For a long time I've used the standard GoPro flat or curved mounts, and once in place they are very secure. In fact, I still use one of those with a curved arm on my Arai Quantic, and for many years that was my go-to fixing on the Shoei RYD. The biggest problem with these is trying to find a big enough area of flat or slightly curved space on the helmet to be able to mount that, particularly if you want to get the camera right in the front. So what I had to do with this and with the Shoei RYD, which was my predominant camera helmet for a number of years, is use a curved mount. So stick the GoPro mount to the side of the chin bar and then use the curved arm to bring the camera around in front. It's a little bit fiddly. You've got to kind of play around to get it in the right place before you commit to sticking that. But outside of that, it's worked really well. The mount is strong, it puts the camera in a decent position, and obviously if you don't want to be filming all the time, you can just pop that arm off and then you've got a relatively discreet kind of mount stuck on there. It doesn't really create too many problems. But of course there are some helmet shapes where this just doesn't work. One alternative that I have used that does work well is the Dango Designs gripper mount. It is exactly what you'd expect. It's a clamp that grips onto the helmet. You've got a very strong spring there and a rubberized kind of toothed insert here. So you get a soft part on the outside of the helmet and that just grips it on. And then you've got a mount on the front, which is a standard GoPro 3-prong fixing. That can be levered up and down, but you can also push it in and rotate it so you can get the camera in exactly the position that you want. The good thing about these is you can have the camera mounted on that, clamp it onto the helmet, do what you need to do, unclamp it, take it away, the helmet is untouched. A little bit more tricky if you want to run with a wired microphone, but it does offer a good solution. However, that clip on and off action does have a drawback as well, and that's the fact that this doesn't work with all helmet shapes. It depends on what venting you've got on the front, and certainly if you want to use a chin curtain, this creates problems because you end up having to pinch the chin curtain in that, and that can do some damage. Now, I quite like using a chin curtain on the helmets when I'm filming POV because that just helps keep some of the wind out and it keeps the wind noise off the microphone in the helmet. So if I can use a chin curtain, I will, and this doesn't really work with that. The only other problem with this is that sits down quite low below the chin bar. So if you've got a helmet that does point down, this then gets quite low. You can whack it on your chest or you can catch it on your jacket, and certainly when you're doing shoulder checks it gets in the way. So it's a good solution, but for me I didn't find it was the best solution for all scenarios. One of the mounts that I've tried recently is the custom mount from Chin Mounts. Now, these are helmet specific, so each one of these is designed to fit a particular helmet, and it's molded so that it fits the contours to fit perfectly on the chin and offer a relatively small and discreet mount when not in use. Now, I use this as a solution for the Shoei GT-R 3. The helmet itself is very sculpted. There's very few flat parts on this helmet, and there wasn't space either here or directly under the chin bar to use one of the GoPro mounts. The Dango design doesn't fit on it particularly well because it's got a central button for the visor and that just kind of gets in the way. So this was a solution that I chose. They made one specifically for this, so I placed an order to see how I'd get on. These mounts retail around about the £30–35 mark. I think I'll check and put the current price on the screen. I think I paid about £30 for it. But when it arrived, I was a little bit disappointed, if I'm being honest. Now, although it does fit precisely on here, but it just feels and looks like something that a hobbyist home 3D printer would make. And it is exactly that. It is a 3D printed mount. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, of course, but, you know, it just felt like I'd paid quite a lot for what it is, and I understand the work that's gone in behind it and the CAD planning and everything else that goes in there. But the other problem I had is that I like to use the GoPro mount so that I've got a rubber anti-vibration insert. Now these things are quite key because that little rubber insert that just snaps in to keep those jaws apart stops that vibration, and it stops this mount transferring any of that vibration up and into the camera mount itself. So these little rubber inserts, I think, are brilliant. They come on all the GoPro mounts now, particularly obviously official GoPro mounts. You can buy cheap ones where maybe you don't get that. But the biggest problem I had with this mount is actually using this. Now, I normally mount these from the top. That makes sense because there's no chance of them falling out. But because this mount hadn't been created perfectly, you then can't push this in. It doesn't go through enough to allow these arms to open up to be able to get that rubber mounting. So I'd lost the use of that, and it doesn't matter whether I do it from the top or the bottom, it didn't fit. For me, that meant either trying to lever this in with a screwdriver, which isn't a great idea, or trying to modify this. And I don't think you should be paying £30 for something like this and then have to modify it to make it do what it's supposed to do. The other slight worry I had about this mount was its footprint. Now, I've not had an issue with it, but it has got quite a small footprint. So although that sticky adhesive pad is very strong, by the time you've got an arm on there and a camera, particularly at speed, I did worry that that would be particularly easy to lever off with the potential loss of the camera. Now, I never had that problem, but I have subsequently looked online and found that some people have had that problem. But also, I can't obviously say whether they've installed that properly or not. So there may be some user error there. But it's just one of those things that's at the back of your mind. So yes, it's small and neat, but actually the contact pack for the adhesive isn't very big. So with the Shoei helmet in particular, that meant me looking for another option. And after a little bit of searching online, I came across a company called Motoradds and their Flex Slim mount. Motoradds take a slightly different approach. They still have a small mount, but the adhesive pad on these arms is obviously much bigger and it's flexible. So it gives you the opportunity to mold this to the shape of pretty much any helmet. The construction of these mounts is quite technical actually. Inside this kind of silicone arm that you have, the flexible silicone arm, is a mild steel bar. So that gives it strength. Once it's bent into shape and stuck, that kind of keeps it in that shape. And then you've got an injection molded mount that goes on the middle, and that is actually secured to this metal bar inside the silicone with 4 stainless steel screws, which you can't see, it's screwed from the inside. So it's a very robust system. And as you can see, there's quite a lot more of a contact point in terms of the adhesive. And the fact that it can be bent means that you can get this to fit on pretty much any type of helmet. And also, because it's relatively narrow, if your helmet's got a big chin vent, there's still usually enough room to get this to sit underneath that. But you're not relying on just that little center piece to stick. You've got all of this on the side here as well. Also in the box, you get a thumb screw, a small extension mount, a primer pad and an alcohol wipe, and those are used for the installation, so we might as well look at that now. Fitting is very simple. Once you've established a suitable area, bend the mount into the approximate shape, remembering to bend the ends in a little to help them stick. Clean it with the alcohol pad. Once dry, apply the primer and again let that dry fully. Then just remove the red backing and press into place, starting with the center. Once the mount has been fully pressed down, check for any areas missed or that have lifted and apply some more pressure. It's helpful if you just turn the ends of the mount in slightly to make sure that those ends stick and they don't lift off. That's it, you're done. You can then mount your camera using the supplied arm or a longer one if you need it. It's a neat solution. I think it's slim enough to go on pretty much any helmet. So far, of the helmets that I've had or have tested, I've offered this up and it looks like it will go on all of those. It gives you a good amount of contact adhesive, which is very reassuring. And then when you're not using the camera, it's pretty discreet on the helmet as well. And so far it's been good. As you can see, it's nice and neat. I don't get any movement on it. It's quite discreet when the camera's not on it. And depending on what bike you're riding, you can always change that small arm. Obviously I'm on something a little bit more upright now, so that short arm is fine. If you're riding something where you're going to be down here a bit more, then to allow that to tilt up, you just need to put a slightly longer arm on it. But other than that, it is all good. The Flex Slim is available in black or white and retails at $25.99. Considering its construction compared to the competition, I think that's a decent price. I also want to point out that I've got no affiliation with Motoradds. This isn't a sponsored video. I've not been paid to make this. There's not even an affiliate link in the bottom where I'm going to try to drive sales towards it. Although Motoradds, if you're listening, if you want to give my viewers a discount code with a link, then yeah, we can have a chat about that. But I just genuinely think it's one of the better solutions out there. It's small, it's neat, it's strong, it does exactly what it needs. You can fit it to pretty much any helmet. It's a really, really good solution. I'll leave a link in the description to the Motoradds website if you want to go and check their stuff out. They make another mount, which again is flexible, but it's got a bigger, squarer base. So if you want to fit it on the top of a helmet or a cycling helmet or under the peak of a motocross helmet, that potentially is a better option because it's not as long. So if you haven't got the space for the long wide one, then the big square one would work. But thank you for watching. I hope you found it interesting. I hope it's answered a few questions. If you have any more, then let me know in the comment section down below. And all that leaves me to say is until next time, thanks for watching, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.